Merry Christmas and welcome. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home or you are seeking comfort and connection in these uncertain times, we are grateful that you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth and love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship to one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. On this night, familiar and peculiar, we gather to share ancient stories and new insights. We come seeking comfort, longing for hope and expecting joy. We enter into this time of worship with our opening reading, The Moment of Magic by Victoria Safford. Now is the moment of magic, when the whole round earth turns again toward the sun. And here's a blessing. The days will be longer and brighter now, even before the winter settles in to chill us. Now is the moment of magic, when people beaten down and broken with nothing left but misery and candles and their own clear voices kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing. The dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights of the menorah, suddenly ablaze with the lights of the Kinara, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons the ignorant toward an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby, born at midnight, born in poverty, and the baby's cry, like bells ringing, makes people wonder as they wander through their lives what human love might really look like, sound like, feel like. Now is the moment of magic.
Eileen, Mabel, and Gray Wivia light this chalice in Northern Illinois on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Sauk, and Fox, also call this area home. We name these in honor and respect. Please join in saying these words from wherever you are. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is magic in the darkness. We are born of this magic. This is a covenantal community, which means we practice living in a relational way in service of our shared mission and purpose and according to our principles and values. This is the covenant this congregation has been practicing since 1894, written by our first minister, Reverend James Vila Blake. I invite you to join in saying these words together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Merry Christmas. I am Karen Gustafson, interim minister at the Unitarian Church of Evanston. The reading this evening is by the Reverend David Bubba, who served this church as interim minister in 1984. He wrote this for the Unitarian Church in Summit, New Jersey in December 1993. Once upon a time, when the world was younger than it is now, long before people began to take things apart in order to learn how they work, the whole world was full of magic. In those days when the world was younger, and so were we, magic was not some special birthday thing like pulling a rabbit out of a hat or a string of silk scarves from your ear or even making someone disappear. In those days, when everything was young, magic was just the way the world worked. Magic was the art of looking at the world and seeing something special every day in everything that happened. When the world was young, and so were we, every season was a magic time. The dead limbs of trees suddenly burst forth in soft green leaves and flowers pushed through the barren earth. That was magic. And when the flowers faded and fell away, revealing fruits and vegetables growing in the sun, and when the grain ripened in fields, that was magic. And when children were born and lambs and kittens, that was magic. And when the leaves turned and fell to the earth like glowing ashes, and all the world was touched with color, and with a sense of endings and of something forever gone and of something never to come again, that was magic. But when the world was young, and so were we, no season had greater magic than this season of the year. All the long autumn people watched as the days grew short and the nights grew long, and the shadows spread across the world, and chill winds blew across the lands, and the birds fled south. All the long autumn, people watched. All the long autumn, people waited. They lighted fires to warm them and to nourish their hopes. They decorated their homes with evergreens, twisted with green branches into wreaths to strengthen the magic of life. They gathered their families and friends to nourish their hopes and to strengthen the magic in them. And they watched and waited. And then one morning it happened. The sun, which had retreated slowly down the sky, growing weaker and weaker day by autumn day, the sun stood still, and the next day it had moved a little toward the north, and the next day a little more toward the north, and they knew that the magic had happened. The sun was returning. Though there would be months of cold and darkness, the magic had not died. The sun was coming back, and the earth would warm, and new leaves and flowers would appear, and new crops would grow, and new babies would come, and the earth would live again. The magic, the everyday magic, was still alive, and they sang and rejoiced and lived in the magic that was the way of life when the world was young, and so were we.
When the winter gave to birth. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning earth. Goddess of all time's progression, stand with us when we engage, hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
Here is a story about Christmas magic.
Cobweb Christmas, The Tradition of Tinsel, by Shirley Climo, illustrated by Jane Manning. Once upon a Christmas time, long ago in Germany, there was a little old woman. She was so little she had to stand on a stool to climb into bed, and so old she couldn't even count all the Christmases she'd seen. The children in the village called her Tante, which means auntie in German. Tante lived at the edge of a pine forest in a tiny cottage just large enough for her to keep a canary for singing, a cat for purring, and a dog to lie beside the fire. In the barn, Tante kept a donkey, a goat, a noisy rooster, and a speckled hen. With so many animals about, her little cottage wasn't very tidy. Once a year, Tante would nod her head and say, "Time to clean for Christmas." Then Tante shook the quilt, scoured the kettle, and scrubbed the floor. She stood tiptoe on her stool to sweep the cobwebs from the rafters. "Shoo," said Tante. She swished her broom and sent every spider and every wisp of web flying out the door. When she was done cleaning her home, Tante nodded and said, "Time to fetch Christmas." Tante and the donkey trotted into the forest. They circled round and round. "There! That one's just right," she told the donkey. Tante chopped down the tree, taking care to leave a bough behind so it might grow again. Then they went home. The tree fit perfectly in the tiny cottage. Then Tante said, "Time to make Christmas." Tante made cookies for the tree. She baked gingerbread boys and girls, sugar cookie moons, and cinnamon cookie stars. Then the old woman nodded and said, "Time to share Christmas." Each year, Tante invited the children to come and see her tree. "Tante," they shouted, "it's the most wonderful tree in the world." The children enjoyed Tante's apples and cookies. Then they hurried home to put their shoes by their doors for Kris Kringle. He was the Christmas visitor who went from house to house, tucking gifts into waiting shoes. Then Tante gave Christmas gifts to the animals. Tante had something for everyone except the spiders, for they'd all been brushed away. And no one could give the little old lady what she wanted. All her life, Tante had heard tales about the marvelous magical happenings on Christmas Eve. Animals might speak out loud, bees might hum carols, and roosters might crow at midnight. Tante wished she could witness a bit of Christmas magic too. She sighed and sat down in her rocking chair. Time to wait for Christmas. Tante fell fast asleep. She did not hear the squeaky voices calling at her door, "Let us in." But someone else heard. Kris Kringle was passing by and saw hundreds of spiders on Tante's doorstep. "We have never shared a Christmas," the biggest spider explained. "Each year Tante sweeps us away. Please, Kris Kringle, would you let us see Tante's tree?" Kris Kringle looked down at the spiders. "There's no harm in that," he said, and he opened Tante's door a crack. Huge spiders, tiny spiders, spotted and striped spiders, brown and black and yellow spiders, and the palest kind of see-through spiders came creeping into the old woman's cottage. The curious spiders crept closer and closer to Tante's tree. 1, 2, 3 skittered up the trunk, and all the other spiders followed. Silently, they ran from branch to branch, up and down the tree. Wherever the spiders went, they left a trail behind. Threads looped from limb to limb, and webs were woven everywhere. Now the busy little spiders had shared Christmas. They had seen and felt every twig on the tree, so they scuttled away. When his work was done, Kris Kringle returned to latch Tante's door. He peeked inside and discovered her tree tangled with sticky, stringy cobwebs. He knew how hard the old lady had worked to make Christmas, and how dismayed she'd be when she saw her tree. But he didn't blame the spiders for being curious. Kris Kringle decided to leave a magical gift for Tante. Gently, he touched each web. Beneath his finger, the slender strands gleamed like gold, and the dangling threads sparkled silver. Now Tante's Christmas tree was truly the most wonderful in the world. The rooster woke Tante in the morning. The old lady blinked in amazement at her glittering tree. "Something magical has happened," she cried. At the top of the tree, she saw one small spider finishing its web. "Ah," Tante nodded her head. "So it is you and your kin I have to thank for this Christmas magic." The little old lady understood that such wonders only happen once. But each Christmas thereafter, she did not clean so carefully, but left a few webs in the rafters so that the spiders might share Christmas too. And every year, after she'd hung the cookies and the apples on her tree, she would nod and say, "Time for Christmas magic." Then Tante would weave tinsel among the branches until her tree sparkled with strings of gold and
O come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart beats cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within us love to dwell.
O come, you splendor very bright, as joy that never yields to might. O come and turn our hearts to peace, that greed and war at last shall cease. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as truth to dwell. O come, you day spring, come and cheer our spirits by your presence here, and on in every broken soul as vision that can see the whole. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as light to dwell. O come, you wisdom from on high, from depths that hide within a sigh, to temper knowledge with our care, to render every
Enjoy this reading by Reverend Sandra Fees, Breathed into the World. Whoever you are, wherever you go, may you know the stillness of winter and the call to love. May you see the moon silvering the night sky and let the dark of midnight plunge you into your truest self and fling you back out again to a world in need of who you are. May there be the familiar carols you know by heart and new melodies to set you free. May there be feasting and frolicking, kindness and wonderment. And may there be wise people to follow a star in the east and a child to teach us to love. And enough magic to let the imagination go wild, to let Christmas arrive with its enchantments, with its glitter, glow, and gold, to let what wants to be born break through. May the presence of the holy crowd out fear, hate, and worry, and proclaim in this moment that peace and goodwill might yet be breathed into the world, and avow that we too can give birth to love wherever we go, whoever we are. Each year on Christmas Eve, we take up a collection for our Pastoral Care Fund. It is the one time, and the only way all year, that the collective abundance and generosity of this congregation is pooled to give to those among us who are struggling. The Pastoral Care Fund is used at the minister's discretion to offer a little help when needed by our members and friends. It may be used to help someone pay a heating bill or repair a car that's broken down, or to help cover an unexpected medical bill. We ask that you give as generously as you are able tonight, knowing that the person you are helping may be among us this evening. This is one of the many powerful ways we build our community of care. You may text to give, send in a check, or give from our website. If you send in a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the Pastoral Care Fund or a pledge, the capital campaign, or some other giving. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy.
Thank you for that, Adam and Gregory. And thank you for your generosity and giving to the Pastoral Care Fund. At our house, we put the tree up a little early this year. It was actually still November. We get a live tree, so I'm usually hesitant to put one up too early for fear it'll dry up and drop all its needles before Christmas. But this year we needed a little Christmas right that very minute. And by me, I mean me. And I'm happy to report that the tree is still holding most of its needles. Something happens to me when it comes to Christmas trees. I'm a little bit like Tanta in our story today. It's the smell and the lights and the magic of unwrapping the ornaments one by one and finding just the right branch to hang it on. Those of you who understand the importance of such things will know that there must be enough strength on the branch to match the weight of the ornament and enough space to allow the ornament to dangle with the correct amount of whimsy. There needs to be enough light near the shiny ones to make them sparkle and dance. When the kids hang them in the wrong place, I move them. They're old enough now that I don't worry about hurting their feelings. They don't worry about hurting mine either. They tease me about how controlling I am, and I'm okay with that. I'm not this finicky about most things, just the Christmas tree. I mean, I can be opinionated for sure, but there's something about the Christmas tree that holds a particular kind of magic for me that I love to recreate year after year. I recognize this is a privilege. I know that not everyone has a place to go to the bathroom or lay their head down, let alone a place to put a large, freshly cut tree upon which to hang little glass baubles and lights that stay on all day. I do not take that privilege for granted, but I do try to enjoy it. My favorite ornaments are the ones from my childhood that bring me back. A plastic rocking chair that I wished I could shrink myself down to sit in. A little wooden box with a lid that slides open to reveal Santa on his sleigh. A little painted ceramic Coca-Cola can that I painted for my dad because he used to drive a truck for Coca-Cola long before I was born. There's the clothespin donkey, or is it supposed to be a reindeer? I don't know. I made it when I was 6. It's been glued together so many times and still doesn't have its 2 back legs. But my favorite is the little plastic triangle manger with the teeny tiny Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus in the creche. I used to marvel at it sitting in front of the big nativity set at my grandma's house. She told me I could have it one Christmas, almost like tossing it to me as an afterthought. You like it, kid? Sure, take it. I don't know what made me love it so, but I treasured it then and I still do. Maybe it was that magical thinking again of wanting to shrink down, to be in that space with Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus. There was something so incredibly intimate and charming about this larger than life story captured in this tiny plastic triangle manger. The whole world was in there to my childish mind. Intimacy has taken on a whole new meaning this year. The whole world has been zeroed into our homes in isolation, our pods, our computer screens. This year has brought us in one screeching halt to the immediate now. Stripped of many of our traditions and shielded from what lies ahead, we are forced to be in this moment and this time. A painful simplicity we might have wished for, but never could have imagined it would be like this. We've been forced to see what matters most in the traditions we preserve and what is left when frivolity is stripped away. Letting go of traditions is hard. I'm sad we didn't get to make ornaments together at church this year. I'm sad that we aren't all able to be here together tonight. Yet I remind myself that sometimes a break in tradition can lead to new traditions, new magic, new ways of appreciating what we have. When I was 10, my father went to treatment. He was trying once and for all to quit drinking. It was right before Christmas, and our friends invited us to join them for Christmas at their home in Pepper Pike, Ohio, which is an even more quaint and idyllic place than it sounds. We drove the 6 hours, my mom, my brothers, and I, and we had the most marvelous Christmas. Their house was tucked in the woods with a sledding hill as their backyard and a frozen pond at the bottom of the hill and, of course, snow. It was magical. For days, we sat and ate and talked and laughed. We forgot some of the tragedy that was befalling my family in that particular moment. Sometimes when traditions are broken, something new is born. When Mary and Joseph wandered through the night, looking for a place to stay under the light of an impossibly bright star, they could not imagine what would happen next. They could not create or control the wonder that unfolded. They simply kept moving forward, inhabiting their present moment as fully as they were able, until what was to break open could find a gentle place to emerge. What might we discover if we are able to inhabit our present moment, open to what is breaking open, expectant of whatever magic is about to be born? We might discover that magic doesn't happen to us. We make magic, all of us, together. Magic happens in relationship through music and shared story, through learning and teaching with one another, through sharing our broken hearts, as well as the beauty and meaning around us, carrying on traditions and leaving room for new traditions to grow and change. Magic happens in the deep, cold winter of injustice and suffering, when we see ourselves in each other and commit to making the world better for all of us. Magic is in the tree, in the flame, in the star that guides wisdom to miracles in the dark night. Magic is in the transforming power of love, guiding a young, poor family to safety and fulfillment. Magic is in a vaccine developed despite incredible odds, through intelligence and compassion and hard work. Magic is our imagination, bringing us to a faith that something better can be manifested through our creative actions, through love, and through our shared commitment to the well-being of all. With loving mindfulness, may we cherish the traditions of the past, celebrate the gifts of the present moment, and make room for what magic may be born of our common human love.
I brought my tree down to the shore, the garland and the silver star, to find my peace and grieve no more, to heal this place inside my heart.
On every branch I laid some bread, and hungry birds filled up the sky. They rang like bells around my head. They sang my spirit back to life. One tiny child can change the world. One shining light can show the way. Through all my tears for what I've lost, Christmas Day.
The snow comes down.
Snow comes
on
down
empty sand.
on empty sand. There's tinsel moonlight on the waves.
My soul was
My
lost.
soul lost, here I am.
So this must be amazing grace.
One tiny child can change the world. One shining light can show the way. Beyond these tears for what I've lost, there's still my joy. There's still my joy for Christmas Day. One tiny child can change the world. One shining light can show the way. Beyond these tears for what I've lost, there's still my joy. There's still my joy for Christmas Day.
There's still my joy for Christmas Day.
Our Lady's Juggler by Robert Fulgham. I am reminded of a juggler who came to our church one Christmas Eve for the midnight service. I wanted to read an old story from long ago about a wandering juggler who happened into a monastery in deep winter and asked for refuge. You may know this story. If memory serves me well, I think it's a French tale called Our Lady's Juggler. The story says that the monks were busy making gifts to lay before the high altar of the monastery chapel in honor of the Virgin Mary, because if she was pleased, her statue would shed a tear of compassion for humanity. But when the gifts were presented at the feast of the Nativity, the statue did not respond. In the middle of the night, the juggler, who thought he had no gift to give, went in alone and juggled before the statue, and juggled to the very limit of his capacity. To make a long story short, the statue of the Virgin Mary shed a tear, and the baby Jesus in her arms smiled, because the juggler had given everything he had, holding back nothing in his generosity. So goes the story.
So to bring the story to life, I had wanted to have a real juggler perform for the congregation first, and then I'd tell the story and turn it into my Christmas sermon, a little show business pizzazz for the midnight service. So when the time for the service came, the juggler had not arrived. Not until the middle of the second carol did I see him working his way up the crowded side aisle. No costume. I had specifically asked him to wear his jester outfit. And no juggling equipment either. What a disappointment. So much for magic at midnight. Well, when the congregation headed to the last verse of O Little Town of Bethlehem, the juggler and I held a whispered conference. His car had been stolen, with all of his possessions and equipment. But not to worry, he had an idea. All I had to do was to tell the story, and he, the juggler, would take it from there.
There was no time to argue. The carol was done, and the service had to go on. I assumed that when it came time for his performance, the juggler would explain his circumstances and use some things that he had found in the kitchen for a short act, reasonable enough. However, Christmas Eve is not a time for reasonableness. I ought to know that by now. So I read the story, and the juggler stepped into the light from out of the congregation. He was wearing grubby old clothes, and he had no tools of his trade.
He smiled and began his routine. In fact, he went through his entire routine, just as if he had brought balls and clubs and knives and scarves with him. We had all seen enough juggling to know what was going on, and in each part of the routine, he went one step further than he had ever juggled and we had ever seen. 7 balls is supposed to be the limit for the very best professional juggler. Our guy did 8, and we knew it when he did it and applauded the moment of triumph. On through 12 silk scarves in the air at once and 7 knives, and we even knew when he set his torches on fire and got 8 torches in the air all at once and caught them without burning himself. We laughed and shouted encouragement and applauded this remarkable performance. We couldn't see it, but we believed it. We gave him a standing ovation. On Christmas Eve, in church, a standing ovation. He held up his hand for silence, and the congregation sat down. The juggler wasn't through. He was going to do an encore.
He started juggling things we couldn't quite recognize. What's this? Chickens? Birds? Some kind of tree? Rings? 1 off each finger. 5 gold rings. Got it. The 12 days of Christmas. He was going to juggle one of everything in the 12 days. The partridge, the pear tree, and all the rest. Impossible. But he was doing it. A swan, a goose, and an egg. I was thinking he will never get the maiden, the cow, off the ground, but with great heaving effort, he did it. After that, the leaping lady and the dancing lord and the drum with the drummer were a piece of cake. Every gift was in the air, way, way up in the air, because this is a lot of stuff. And as each piece came around, we knew what it was and shouted out its name as he caught it and threw it back into the air. Fantastic! Nobody had ever done this before. The juggler was laughing. The congregation cheered like a crowd at a championship game when the last-minute scorer won it for the home team. The juggler suddenly clapped his hands loudly and stood still. 1 finger in front of his lips called for silence. And silence came.
We stood looking at him, and he at us. In the most powerful and meaningful moment of quiet I've witnessed at Christmas Eve. The sermon was supposed to follow the juggler, and it did, but it was not I who spoke. We were all addressed by a sermon of eloquent, instructive silence. The silence in which we absorbed the power of the vision we had of the impossible event we had wished into being. The silence in which we thought about our capacity to realize things we can sometimes only imagine. Some of the most wonderful things have to be believed to be seen, like flying reindeer and angels, like peace on earth, goodwill, hope, and joy. Real because they can be imagined into being. Christmas is not a date on a calendar, but a state of mind.
Someone, I don't know who, began to sing Silent Night. As was our tradition, people in the first row lit their small candles from the big candle on the altar, and then passed the flame on to the candles of those in rows behind them. The church filled with light, and we filed out of the church, singing into the night, and went home, taking our light with us.
Let's be honest. We all know Christmas Eve service is all about lighting the candles and singing Silent Night. It is that moment of magic we all long for. So we're going to try a little bit of magic tonight. We're going to try to recreate our candle lighting in a new way, and you all get to participate. I hope. You'll need a candle, and a way to light your candle, if you have a match or a lighter. And you'll need a cell phone if you have one. So I invite you to light your candle, one for each of you in your house, if you have one, or you can all huddle around one candle. And then take a selfie of yourself. Take a picture, and then you can text your picture to the number on your screen. 224-271-9241. If you have some festive background in your home, your tree or stockings or menorah or solstice or Yule candle, or perhaps some of the cards that you've been sent wishing you peace, whatever you want to include in your selfie, please get creative, but light your candle and pass it to us, and we'll share our light together. While you are texting in your photos, the staff will start passing the light, and then watch the magic appear and join in singing Silent Night.
As Eileen, Mabel, and Gray extinguish the chalice, please join in saying these words by Victoria Safford. Now is the moment of magic, and here's a blessing. We already possess all the gifts we need. We've already received our presents, including ears to hear music, eyes to behold lights, hands to build true peace on earth, and to hold each other tight in love.
Thank you for helping us to make some magic. For you, we wish soft snow, a gift both given and received, wrapped in love, a candle and a fire, a bowl of crisp red apples, tangerines, and oily oranges, a blizzard of cards that bring those others closer than they were before, a tree that somehow kept its green when autumn came and went, the joy of old stories that seem forever new, and songs sung softly under the breath of peace on earth. Those are the words of Max Coots. Merry Christmas, everyone. Peace.